Hello and welcome to the special podcast series which takes a look at cybersecurity during this global pandemic known as COVID-19. I'm Peter Ballant from Technicon, and throughout this series we will be speaking with partners from the SPARTA project. You may recall from previous podcast episodes that SPARTA is a relatively new project which will improve the way Europe does cybersecurity. From training and education to engaging the development community, SPARTA is committed to implementing lasting change. Cybersecurity is akin to the COVID-19 pandemic in the impact that could take place due to a breach or outbreak. Shutdown, loss of commerce, and public fear are just a few of the effects both a pandemic and a large-scale cyber attack could yield. In this series, we will look at the intersection of those two vulnerable sectors of our society and what is being done on the cybersecurity side to keep things running safely and securely. Today we speak with Rhina Stampeliska remotely from her home office in Paris. She is the VP of Governance and Public Affairs at Yes We Hack, which is Europe's first bug bounty platform. Relax, these are the good hackers. In fact, Yes We Hack is a network of over 15,000 ethical hackers from around the world who look for vulnerabilities in the cyber systems of organizations and then makes recommendations on how to fix them. Yes We Hack has a partnership role in SPARTA, but also lately they have become quite active with remediation methods for COVID-19 in the way of auditing security in contact tracing software. Welcome, Rhina.
Thank you.
I have to ask, what were your first thoughts when you learned that a pandemic was upon us?
Well, there is one thought which is a very human, very immediate thought, that is how are we going to handle the good health and safety of ourselves and our relatives and loved ones. That's a very human thing. And then the second thing is, okay, what can I do about this? What can I do to help? So there have been a lot of initiatives where many people, including, tried, to chime in and to just say, look, here's what I can do. Just, do not hesitate to reach out and ask for help. And so we've been curating data. We've been also providing free of charge advice to labs or drugstores for them to properly secure their computers and their information systems, because there has been a huge surge of cyber criminality during the whole COVID pandemic, and it hasn't stopped yet, and there is no chance it will stop anyway.
Well, that's true. It will never stop. But why now? Why during this pandemic do we see a sudden surge in hacking activity? What's the link?
There's been a lot of activity indeed. The cyber criminal activity is never totally absent. And now we saw a spike or a surge, as you like, for different reasons. One of them is that in the rush to enable people working from home to work when the lockdown started, a lot of organizations basically put in place tools and online services that were with a far lesser security than what's done normally, right? So this was sort of an open door. Many people, to be able to work, started using a lot of general purpose tools. And this, especially in a professional setup, can be dangerous because you are not aware or you ignore the behavior of those tools, since they are new to you. So it's very easy basically to lure you into clicking into on buttons. You got a new notification, click here to display it. And you should log in to see the message your colleague sent you over blah blah tool. So this is the kind of things that we've seen, and this is a very common and widespread and efficient, actually, for malware to get into computer systems. Whenever people are scared for themselves, for their relatives and loved ones, they are always, on the lookout for reliable information, for more information, for anything really that, kind of puts them at ease, or at least, relieves the pressure a little bit. So it's in those situations, they don't pay that much attention to, oh, could that be a cyber criminal hiding behind, No, they just want to click and display some sort of reassuring information.
So no one is to blame. People working from home may be using unfamiliar software, and this could open the door to vulnerability. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, cyber criminals are gonna benefit from a situation of weakness. It would be extremely unfair to blame it on, regular people who are just trying to do their job in the conditions that we are all in for trying to do so. So that's why it's also very difficult, because how can you tell people, well, don't click on this? Yes, but it could have been something important, and then it's not necessarily a bad intentioned email. So if I don't, I will have problems at work, other problems with my clients, or blah blah blah. So it's really a complex situation, not complicated. It's really complex to navigate, especially for for most of people out there who are not, trained cybersecurity experts and cyber defense experts, because we shouldn't lie to ourselves. I mean, cyber criminals are constantly improving their approaches, their tools, to basically, be more and more successful. They also run a business, right? So you have the same dynamics from one side and the other side. It's just that we don't like their business line.
And understandably so. And since we're talking about keeping the people safe, let's talk about the app called Stop COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's being billed as a contact tracing app for the people of France. And the idea is that the app alerts you if you have been close to a user who tests positive. Cool stuff, but what about the notion of data protection or user privacy? What are some of the implications of using such an app?
So there is a lot of concern about, but this means that the government will have, a list of the people I've been in contact with in the past 2 weeks, and who I've been having a coffee with or whatnot. Those are like legitimate concerns, right? I mean, you can't blame people for being uneasy with something that, very quickly is starts resembling, massive surveillance. The question is, that is why, we need to be very, very cautious and inquisitive about the ways that sort of apps are built, about their security, about the way they implement privacy, data protection, about, the whether they respect completely or not GDPR and other provisions, and that sort of things. We need to be extremely cautious about this, because, of course, even when we take all the precautions to make things sensible and to implement the best data protection mechanisms, we still need to examine this, to scrutinize this continuously, and to ensure that there is no function creep, as you would call it. There is no misuse of that technology. It's a huge, actually, I see it as a huge question mark to our capability, to our capacity as a society to remain, in defense of our democratic values when faced with this very difficult time, with this very difficult and exceptional situation. And this is what, this is why those questions are not easy, because the trade-offs we need to make whenever they are needed, and the questions and the examination we need to ask, and to go through, need to be extremely rigorous and extensive, so that, yes, we have the most most possible transparency, if you want to say so. But also we have the most optimal security and the most optimal functionality for that sort of things. And we, of course, hope as a society that those apps, if they reach us, well, they actually function as planned, and they help curtail virus spread, and they help us resume a somewhat, normal life and interactions with friends, family, and colleagues.
It seems like these assurances are something that the SPARTA project may be examining. I mean, this notion of consumer security is and always has been a challenge. Now, Rhina, I want to ask you, at the intersection of cybersecurity and pandemic, what keeps you awake at night?
So many things. Well, in this whole discussion, it's this whole COVID situation is very demonstrative about the challenges that we face as a society, both at the national level, but also at the European level. Even if this discussion is a very nice example of this, in the sense that you are in Austria, I'm in France. We know each other through a European project, that's SPARTA, and it's very interesting to see how you guys are reacting to this, how other countries are doing so, and how so this is how we continue to act and to interact as individuals, but also as societies with common values. This has been very important to me, especially during the pandemic. And another thing that I'm very cautious about is we need more technology components to be open sourced, meaning their source code, their makeup basically should be available to anyone to look, study, examine, and so on. And so this is also, important, especially, for example, for software that makes up our public administrations, that helps us, pay taxes. Actually, most of the components of this Stop COVID app, for example, are going to be open sourced. And my desire is to also walk the talk on this as well. Transparency is not a vain word. The GDPR, for example, gives a lot of power and a lot of rights for better transparency, back to the individuals. This is what basically keeps me up at night. How do we again handle protecting, state secrets, protecting business, specific business assets, and so on, and how far can we go with basically opening technology algorithms to anyone to examine, to study, to critique, to improve, and so on and so forth. And so, to me, I'm really very much hoping to see a more, a more global, in the sense of at least more European approach to opening more data, opening up more source code for software, especially for public administrations. And you have this leitmotif that's been around for the past few years, which is public money, public code, or public data, which is to say, since the public administration is nurtured, exists because of our taxes, a way, for us to ensure that our money, our taxes are being put to good use, is to have a better insight into the software that assigns teams to universities, or you name it. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for that. I see your concerns, and I hope that the SPARTA project can help clarify these issues and set new standards for safer cyber activities and more effective training methods in the future. Rhina, thank you for taking the time today to share a little bit of your knowledge. Best of luck, and I hope to have the chance to talk to you again in the near future.
I would like that. Well, thank you and have a good day.
For more information about the SPARTA project, go to sparta.eu. This podcast has been brought to you by Technicon. The SPARTA project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program under Grant Agreement 830892.